I said, guys, we didn't come here for no reason.
Hey, my brother, put a smile on your face. Okay? Because Florida State, if we gonna do it then, we do it big. Let's go, baby.
Here's the snap, handoff on the belly dive, and Stevenson's gonna try to root his way in. He breaks through, and he's got the 10, 5, 3, 2 yards, touchdown FSU. The Smarty Stevenson, senior playing his final game. I thought he was tackled to the line of scrimmage, root hogging his way, and he broke into daylight, and he scores a touchdown.
Welcome to Double Fries No Slaw. It is Sunday, November 15th. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to jump right into it. Before we even get going, I'm not even going to ask how you guys are doing. I know you're doing great. Based on the guests that we've got, Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's in Tallahassee, 2550 North Monroe, and 1818 West Tennessee. We'll talk about them in just a moment. Also powered by the Big Three Roll Up. Appreciate their partnership there. You can go to our store at big3rollup.com. We're going to jump right into it tonight. We've got a very special guest on with us. We appreciate his time. From ESPN College Game Day, Kirk Herbstreit. How you doing tonight, Kirk?
I'm good. TJ, how you doing, man?
Good. We definitely appreciate your time. Appreciate you for hanging out. I know the fall is busy time for you, man. I don't even know how you have a second to breathe with everything that you got going on, but
it's crazy. It's fun though. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time. I'm kind of used to it. This season, like I'm sure for you guys, has obviously been strange with the protocols, the testing, and the restrictions. No fans at stadiums, but we're trying to remain positive and at least celebrate. We have college football. We have games, to talk about, even with some cancellations. So, but it's been a crazy year for all of us.
Definitely weird, but like you said, we didn't know if we would get football this year, right? There was a time where it was looking like we wouldn't. So especially, and some of the conferences canceled, right? And then kind of came back. So no, we're thankful. I like to ask the most hard-hitting questions up front. Double Fries No Slaw. This is an ode to Guthrie's there in Tallahassee. Have you ever been to Guthrie's or any kind of like just greasy fast food chicken type place, like Zaxby's, Raising Cane's, Guthrie's, any of that stuff?
Yeah, all of them. I Zaxby's. I love. I've been to Guthrie's. We haven't been. We've not. We used to go to Tallahassee when Freddie was there. We were at Tallahassee a couple of times a year, 2 or 3 times a year. We obviously have not been down there as much as we used to. But that's a. If you're at college, I have 4 sons. If you're a college kid, what an incredible campus that is. That I don't know about the studying part, but as far as the fun part, that looks like a great campus.
We've all had a lot of fun and good times up there for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Kirk, I mean, obviously this season's not going the way Florida State fans wanted it to. And something you said kind of stuck with me when you were on the call for the Florida State Miami game. You said, we just need to get some football players in here. As Florida State fans, we're used to top 5 classes and all these high 5 and high 4 stars, but those guys aren't interested right now, and no one can blame them. So how tough is Norvell's job to get the right guys in here to win enough to start attracting those guys again?
Well, first, I love your background. That is absolutely beautiful.
I planned it just for you, Kirk. I wanted to be there. I was watching Saturday. I'm like, man, I wish I was there.
It was crazy. I'm not a great golfer, but I can appreciate tradition. It was pretty surreal to be there. Plus, I got to walk the Friday round with just watching Tiger play his entire round. There were about 20 of us walking with him, and it was pretty sweet to watch, in person, his laser focus. But I know Florida, every fan base has a Twitter handle that I think announcers hate their team. I don't hate any team. I especially don't hate Florida State. When I came on to College Game Day in 1996, Florida State was Alabama. Florida State was either winning a national championship or in it, or right on the verge of it every year. I mean, 96, 97, 98, 99. It was, and I loved them. I love getting close to their program. Huge fan of Bobby Bowden. Mark Richt was there. Winky was there. Peter Warwick. I mean, Travis Minor. They were just loaded, and they just have better people. Nothing personal. They just were better than who they played. And defensively, they had so many great players, and they had a personality about them that was not BS. It wasn't a fake personality. They were ballers, and they knew they were good. And so somewhere along the way, I don't know, Freddie, you may have a much better feel for it than me, but somewhere along the way, they got off track. They lost their way. Freddie, you tell me if I'm wrong. As an outsider, I feel like it got a little bit more individual focused. It got a little bit more about getting to the league. And I think those guys, when Florida State was rolling, that was going to happen, but that wasn't the primary focus. The primary focus was just to win and dominate. And then on the back end, they're going to go to the league, So I just feel like the last, I don't know, I almost used that Florida State Louisville game when Lamar went off. Like that is almost like the game or the year where it just felt like Florida State started to become like, hey, you know what? We're losing, but I got to take care of me. I'm gonna go make sure I'm okay. And when that starts going on, you're in trouble. And so you're right. You got to recruit not only players that have ability, and you got to recruit personality. You got to recruit guys that want to wear that helmet and want to play for the tradition of guys like Freddie and going back to Charlie Ward and just so many incredible players. They're so proud of their school. So when I watch them, and I think Mike's trying, you almost got to take 3 steps back. Guys that aren't buying into the culture, they got to go. I don't care who they are. You got to take 3 steps back to really, you got to hit ground zero and then climb your way back slowly back out to do it right. I wouldn't want to try to do a quick fix, even though fans want that. Yeah. So I love Mike. I hope he can do it, but man, that's a big challenge.
I kind of want to build off of what you just said. 2013, I witnessed that firsthand. I came in as a freshman, didn't really know how to win. I came from a high school program, never been to the playoffs. And I came in around a whole bunch of guys. They were dogs, straight dogs. And they never talked about championships. They never talked about the NFL. It was just about controlling what we could control. Yeah. Then after we handled business that year, in 2014, everything.
Like you had like Joyner and Telvin Smith. They were all just locked in, man. They were ballers.
And if you ever talked about anything outside of that getting better, they're going to punch you in the mouth, something like that. Like, we got out there.
You had leaders. Yep.
And in 2014, you kind of saw that shift. We still had, I believe 2014 had more talent than 2013 did. But guys started thinking about the NFL. We were stars now, so we started to buy into that. I talked about it last week. They had a saying. It was like Dallas to Dallas. We started the season off in Dallas against Oklahoma State.
I remember
college football playoffs was in Dallas, so we kind of bought into that, and all the players were screaming it. And looking back at that now, I was like, damn, like we set ourselves up for failure from the jump.
Yep.
And then you saw guys coming in that 2015, 2016 season, when things started to take that turn and you saw it try to change. And guys just didn't understand what it took to be successful. They just thought, all right, we go to Florida State. They've been successful here, so we're just going to be able to come in and win. Guys didn't understand what it took. And guys like DeMarcus Walker, myself, other guys on the team, we were trying to get these guys to understand, but they didn't care. They wanted to go to the league, win a few games, and it was all about what they can get for themselves. And once we left, you saw that go downhill. Like it got bad. They didn't have any guys that wanted to step up. And the culture's completely messed up right now. So
how do we get it? How do we get it back? How do we get this thing?
That was my question. How do we get this back? I've heard you guys speak highly of Coach Norvell as a coach. Like I think it's tough because we saw some of these signs when we were heading out and we were trying to catch it, but at the same time, it's only so much you can do to a guy that's fighting it. Like you can't bother him every day because then he's gonna give up on you.
Yeah.
So it's a tough process right now, especially with guys that have had 3 different coaches in the past few years.
Yeah.
They don't know who to trust. And then Norvell's trying to come in and implement his system, and guys don't want to buy in. There's still some of Willie's guys. And some guys still left from the Jimbo era. So it's going to be tough. But from what you've seen from Norvell, what are some things from him that you feel like we should be optimistic about?
Well, so what I'm seeing sounds like it's real, like you lived it. So I'm not off track by saying what I've been seeing. And before I say something about Mike, the one thing I'll tell you is what I've seen in doing this, because I've seen programs go through this and I've seen them get out of it. What I would do is you got everybody coming into Florida trying to get all the great players. You're dealing with Florida, my University of Florida, you're dealing with Miami, not to mention Alabama, Ohio. So everybody's coming down. You got to find guys that, and it's through recruiting. Maybe they're not a 5-star, but you know what? They love football. They love to compete, and you got to get to know them. Guys like Telvin Smith, guys like yourself, DeMarcus Walker, LaMarcus Joyner. I mean, guys that just, I mean, they're out there because I see them. Alabama has a whole roster full of them. You can say whatever you want about Alabama. Watch them and find out if they're worried about themselves. Those guys don't last long if they're like that at Alabama. So you can find these guys, but you got to find guys that just love playing football, which is when you played or when I played. I mean, that's why you played, because you loved it. Now it's all about 3 and out NFL, but you got to find that. But Mike brings an offensive system that skill players want to play in. Whether you're a quarterback, whether you're a running back, whether you're a wide receiver, you're going to get a chance to get out in space. You're going to get a chance to be in one-on-one opportunities, and you're going to get a chance to showcase your skill. It's not a pound it, kill the clock, shorten the game type of offense. It is a dynamic. When he was at Memphis, I mean, their offense is high flying, scoring. They're scoring 50 a game, 45 a game when he has the right people. But if you watch his Memphis teams, those guys, a lot of those guys went to the NFL, the offensive skill guys, but they played for each other, for the love of one another. And I think it's harder to create that, but I still think you can create that if you recruit the right people. So, I don't think this is something that's going to happen overnight. I don't think it's going to happen in a year or two. We're in the middle of a pandemic, which adds to the challenge of trying to get this done. But I would ask you guys this, Freddie, especially you as a player. I sense that we're in a new world of, as soon as your team is out of winning a championship, players now are in a mode of, I don't really care anymore. I'm just going to get ready for the league. I'm just going to worry about myself, which is very foreign to my generation of football player. How do we get out of that? How do we overcome not just Florida State, but college football in the country, these opt-outs? And I know we're in a pandemic, but these guys that just emotionally and mentally opt out because, well, we're 2 and 3, we're out of it. Who cares? Like, I don't even know how that comes into your brain when you work January, February, March, April. I mean, all you do is work, and you're just going to give up like that because the season isn't going right. I don't know what kind of message that's sending the players that we're going to accept that kind of mentality.
Yeah, I don't understand it, and it's really tough for me because, like I said, I played for a high school that never went to the playoffs. We're in the fourth quarter most of the time playing against teams' third string squad. And
right.
I'm in there still trying to make plays, trying to rally guys together. So I don't understand how guys could even think about that. But I guess everybody's different. This is the generation we live in. But I've always believed in fighting and showing some type of pride. Yeah. If you come in, I was always taught that if you start something, you better finish it. Mm-hmm. And that's the generation we live in. If things aren't going God's way, they want to quit. They want to find the easy way out. It kills you in the long run, I believe. Down the line, when you get tested, the first thing guys are going to do, they're going to quit.
Shut it down.
So they're setting themselves up for failure in the long run.
Yeah, in life, whether it's as a guy who's got a job, as a husband, a father, like that's not a great message. I don't feel that these players are learning by just saying, I'm done. I don't want to play anymore. I mean, who does that? I hate it. Hate to see it.
Kirk, you touched on it, man. It's a pandemic. 5 months ago, we didn't know we'd have football. So 2-6 or not, I'm just happy we have college football.
Yeah.
But for Florida State fans, obviously, especially the casual ones, they see 2-6, they see these final scores, but it is kind of a year zero. We did not have a spring. We didn't have summer workouts. The fall camp was hit or miss. How patient should Florida State fans be? Because I know myself, Freddie, and TJ, but we all still believe in Mike Norvell, and you can't judge the guy after 8 games in what's going on this year. So as a national guy, man, you see the entire country. Is it fair to say, man, give the guy some time, give him a full spring, give him a full summer before we really start, trying to pick apart what's going on?
Oh, for sure. Not just pandemic, it's just what he inherited.
Yeah.
Freddie talked about a lot of these guys have had 3 coaches, since they've been there. You're going to let go of this one now and go get another one? That makes no sense to me. I mean, it's like the opposite of what they need. They need stability. They need something to be able to kind of sink their teeth in as players and know this is our strength coach. This is my offensive coordinator. This is my defensive coordinator. This is my head coach. This is my position coach. Like, reason Clemson's so good is, I know they lost Coach Scott to USF, but Tony Elliott's been there forever. Brent Venables has been there forever. Their assistants don't leave. And so these players, they have such incredible continuity. Who are juniors and seniors, they're almost like assistant coaches. That's what Florida State strives for. And the worst thing they can do is, well, we're 2-6, get rid of this guy. Let's bring in the next one. It's impossible. If you're serious about turning it around, you're just going to have to go through. I know it's frustrating. You're going to have to go through growing pains, and you're going to have to trust that Mike Norvell has what it takes to be able to get you out of it. When I called the Miami Florida State game, I was like, whatever, week 2 or 3, whatever it was. I remember saying, this is not going to be a year where we're going to look at, well, he got to 5 wins or he got to 6 wins. To me, it's not about wins. It's about trying to change the personality of the football team. You're going to lose players, whether it's through injury, opt-outs, they're not getting enough playing time, they don't like their role in the offense, whatever it is, you're going to lose guys. That's the way it is with the transition. And when you do that, you're going to lose some of your best players. But if you have some young guys that are hungry, so by the end of the year, if you're a fan and things feel like, forget wins and losses, the energy of the team, the competitive spirit of the team, the togetherness of the team, like if you feel like, you know what, from week 1 and week 2 to where we are now, like how they played at Notre Dame, I didn't expect them to win that game, but I thought they at least, with Jordan Travis, they had a little bit of an identity on offense, and they showed a little bit of fight when no one really expected that of them. That's the kind of personality that you want to see in these last few games. And then you can kind of build on that going into the offseason. But yeah, if I were you, I'd tell the fans that's not an option, getting a new coach in there, whether it's this year or even next year.
Hey, Kirk, I had a quick question for you. I remember being in the stands. This pertains to Freddie. I remember being in the stands in high school, and you were calling this game, Florida State versus Clemson. And I'm sitting there with my dad, and I see Dalvin Cook streaking down the sideline for, a 50, 60, 70-yard run in the fourth quarter against Clemson. And I'm thinking, we just took the lead. We won the game. This is huge. And I see a flag down at like the 50-yard line, 40-yard line, and they call, Freddie, a block in the back or a chop block, something like that.
Block below the waist. Yeah,
block below the waist. And I saw the thing on Twitter the other day of you making that call and saying, man, I don't really know about that. But I guess my question was, how much do you think Dalvin Cook kind of mitigated the issues we had that last year? Do you think he just kind of pulled us through and kind of hid those issues that we were starting to see the next year? Was he just that good of a player? Or do you think the fall actually happened, like you said, there in Louisville?
I think it really came to a head in Louisville, but I think you're right. We started to see signs, and Freddie would know way better than me, but just watching them play, I'll never forget the Oregon game. It was competitive. Jameis, of course, almost became like the Darth Vader of the sport when he was playing. Fans outside of Tallahassee enjoyed cheering against him. Number one, they won the championship the year before, and so, anytime you win, people like to tear you down, whether you're Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, whoever you are. And now it was Florida State, and Jameis had some, all that other stuff going on. So people always wanted to kind of see him lose. I didn't, but that's how the fans were. So I remember watching that game, calling the game in the Rose Bowl, and it was competitive. But then all of a sudden, Marcus, if you remember, Marcus Mariota and that up-tempo offense could frustrate you. Yeah. And I'll never forget watching the tempo get going when the game started to kind of get sideways for Florida State. And Mariota's going fast. And they hit a big pass. And I can't remember who else was in the secondary. I just remember Jalen Ramsey like yelling at one of his teammates as Mariota is coming to the line of scrimmage and going another play. And as Jalen Ramsey's looking over here and kind of just tearing a guy apart. And then that play came and they got more yards and he's yelling at another guy. And they just looked like they were coming unglued. And that was a year they had a lot of mental busts in coverage and just things you wouldn't typically see from Florida State on defense. And that's when I felt like they were a great team talent-wise, but the personality, as I talk about, of the team that year, you started to see some signs of the individuality and not this, we're all in this together, whether we're winning or we're losing, it's all of us together. That's when I started to see it. And then, Freddie, you know what I don't know if you remember that at all or know what I'm talking about, but you never really want to show up one of your teammates, and especially on that big of a stage. And I thought you started to see some of the signs right there.
Yeah, without a doubt. We experienced it. We knew it was coming, and it kind of leads into my next question. In 2016, Harlan brought it up. Of course, the chop block game, but we lost that game, and of course, we lost to Louisville, and that they completely killed us that year. But we lose to Clemson, then they go on to win the national championship, and then you see the monster that Clemson has turned into, and then how we've had this major debacle, whole team's falling apart, and Clemson just killing everybody. And I think they have one of the strongest teams they had in a while this year. How much do you think things go differently if we win that game in 2016? We may have a chance to play in the ACC championship possibly if we win that game.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to think about one game and how it can flip things. That was a game like 31, or I just remember it being a close game. And I think Clemson in that time frame, they were starting to really get it going, and I think a win like that gave them an enormous amount of confidence because they weren't used to consistently being able to play in Tallahassee and being able to win. I think there were some times they were close, but if I remember right, you did. What was your final record that year? I mean, you lost to Louisville.
I think it was 10-3. They ended up beating Michigan they beat Michigan to go 10-3 in the Orange Bowl.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that. It's hard to say, Freddie. I mean, if you win that game, Clemson's not in the position that they're in, and Florida State probably is. I mean, that's how close it came that year. I totally forgot about you guys bouncing back and recovering from that loss at Louisville that year. But yeah, it's an interesting thought.
I think it's interesting also, like you said, Clemson, even the year before when they beat us in Death Valley, we just lost to Georgia Tech, and we go up there, their number one team. We went out there for warm-ups, and Clemson was they were terrified of us. They didn't believe they could beat us. The last time we played there, we blew them out. So it was still in their head every year that they couldn't beat Florida State. So when they came to Tallahassee and beat us, they were no longer scared of us, and that's what you see today. And anytime they get their chance, they're going to step on our neck and completely try to dominate us.
Man, it's such an interesting point that you bring up that they didn't think they could come to Tallahassee and play with us, because what you're describing to me, I saw firsthand going back to one of those teams with Bobby Bowden. I don't know how that tradition started. You guys get done with warm-ups and then you walk. I don't know if you walk from the goal line to the 50 or the 50 to the goal line, but you guys grab hands and kind of walk. You line up all the way across the field and you walk. And most teams in the ACC, when Florida State would do that, would be like, in pregame warm-up, all right, take care, we're out of here. Like they were just intimidated, like, no, we don't want to play. And I think it's almost like the Russian's been hit and Rocky, he's bleeding. When Florida State started to lose a few games in the ACC, they became human. they became, oh my gosh, we can do this, and it was almost as if you guys as a program handed the baton to Deshaun Watson and to Clemson and said, you guys now are that team. Because now, Dabo has that same tradition. They lock arms, they walk the 50 to the goal line. And a lot of teams in the ACC see that, and they see all of the pretty athletes and the speed and the size, and they think, man, we don't want anything to do with this. So they've become what Florida State once was. Clemson right now is that brand, not just the talent, but Dabo Swinney feeds into the culture of that program every single day. And going back to what we talked about, what Florida State has to do, he finds guys that are unselfish. He finds guys that want to play for each other. He finds guys that want to win. And of course they have NFL aspirations, but while they're here, they want to win. They want to have fun. And he has a way. They work hard, but man, you're a recruit and you come into a Clemson locker room. You're like, can I have a jersey? Like, I want to be here. I want to be a part of this. And that to me reminds me a lot of Bobby Bowden, like in his heyday. And, we'll hope that Florida State can get that back to that at some point.
Speaking of Clemson, it kind of looks like they'll most likely get kind of taking it nationally for just a minute, but it looks like they'll get a rematch with Notre Dame unless some weird things happen. And probably the winner of that goes to the playoff. Indiana and Ohio State have a big game this weekend. The winner of that puts themselves in the driver's seat. Obviously our big rival, but man, how about the Gators? The Gators look really good. Like that game in Atlanta, like the over under might be 100 for that Florida Bama game. I mean, you never bet against Saban, right? But like,
think about that.
I mean, how for real is Florida?
Man, I get in trouble every week because I release my top 4 on Sunday, and I have Florida ahead of Texas A&M, who they lost to. But if you watch Kyle Trask throw the ball since they lost to A&M on the road at Kyle Field, on the last possession when they fumbled the ball when they were getting ready to go down and probably win the game. So it was a close game. But, man, the Georgia game and then again last week, this offense, I didn't think we'd see another offense close to what LSU was doing as far as execution last year. I didn't think we'd see that in a long, long time. And here we are right now with Florida. I mean, you look at Trask's numbers, and I'm not comparing Florida as a team to LSU because that was, for me, I thought that was almost like a once-a-generational type of team. But they are putting up monster numbers, should be rewarded, even though they lost to A&M, in my opinion. So I would have the teams you mentioned, you've got Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Clemson up in there in the top 4. And then I would have Florida right there knocking on the door. And if they keep winning, obviously, like you said, they'll get their chance against Bama. I don't know if you guys have seen BYU play. Most people haven't, unless you're a degenerate college football fan like me and you watch as many teams as you can. Man, they are really good. Physical team at the line of scrimmage, NFL quarterback that can throw it aroth and pretty good skill. So they're not going to get an opportunity because they just don't play anybody to probably throw their hat in the ring. But both them and Cincinnati both have teams that are pretty good. Clemson's going to be interesting, though. I mean, if you look at what they have, you obviously have Florida State on the road. They have Pitt. I think it's on Thanksgiving, and then they go to Virginia Tech. I mean, all those on paper look like wins. They got to get healthy, as we saw in South Bend. Not just Trevor, because I thought DJ did a nice job stepping in. But, man, James Skowski is kind of like their Telvin Smith, a middle linebacker who started like 35 – 40 games. He's been out with an injury. They're hoping to get him back here the next week or two. They also didn't have their 3 technique, who's going to be a first rounder. He's in his second year, named Tyler Davis. So you take an all-American 3 technique in the middle linebacker, who's an extension of Brent Venables, and then the outside linebacker, Mike Jones, who's a senior, who's replacing Isaiah Simmons, who just knows the scheme inside and out. All 3 of those guys out for the Notre Dame game. So if they're going to be who we think they are, they got to get healthy. And right now they're playing a lot of true freshmen, a lot of young faces. And I think that's part of the reason that their defense got exposed against Ian Book and Notre Dame last week.
Kirk, you mentioned Texas A&M, and Jimbo still is triggers a few Florida State fans out there. He's the guy that broke up with us for more money. But what he did at Florida State in Freddie's years was beyond impressive. And he has A&M rolling now. What is the ceiling? Can he win a national championship or, get to a playoff at A&M? Because it certainly looks like he's trending that way.
Yeah, I mean, if you go by resources, A&M's not taking a back seat to anybody. They are their budget, not just with his salary, but their budget in recruiting. If you look at the facilities, I mean, if you ever want to see facilities just for fun and you're looking to just go see something where it's just like, I didn't know they had facilities like this, go to Texas A&M and look what they did to Kyle Field. Look what they've done to the football offices and the weight room and all that stuff. It's amazing. So I think when you have that and you're in that state and you're competing against a lot of people, you got to separate yourself. What separates Texas A&M is that they can tell a recruit, oh, no, you can go to Texas. Yeah, no, the Big 12 plays good football. Or you can come into the varsity and go play in the SEC. I mean, if you think you're great, come play in the SEC. They've never been able to say that in that state until they joined the SEC. So that's the sales pitch with Jimbo, along with the offense that he runs. But hey, I'm not taking anything away from what they're doing. I just happen to be a little higher, even though they beat Florida just the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think Florida's trending in a little better direction. The cool thing about this argument is it'll be settled on the field. I mean, A&M, if they keep winning, they'll end up with one loss to Alabama where they got blown out. And Florida will eventually play Bama, and they'll either beat them and they would leapfrog over Texas A&M with a win over Alabama, or they get beat by Alabama. Now they have 2 losses and they're out, and A&M would move ahead of them. So eventually it'll work itself out. But yeah, to answer your question, Jimbo's doing a good job of recruiting, and we know he knows how to draw ball plays up. And the big question really was, can his defense get high enough to be competitive? And right now they're playing pretty good.
Speaking of defense, I'm not saying Florida State's going to make a change this year, but man, should we try and bring in Will Muschamp and just open the checkbook now that he's free?
Well, you guys would know a lot better about the coordinators and what's going on there. For me, I personally, like I said earlier, I would love to see him have some stability. Did Will get let go today? I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, he just got let go.
Okay. Well, he'll end up somewhere.
I'm going to remember this, Kirk, when I broke college football news to you on this podcast.
Yeah, Sundays for me is I'm going to bed is Sunday, except to do this. I'm going back to bed. I appreciate that. I'll roll up the sleeves tomorrow. But good job breaking that for me. But no, I wondered if people would get let go, no matter what they face, just because of the pandemic. I called a game last night in Ann Arbor, and their own fan base, they've turned on one of their own in Jim Harbaugh. I mean, forget the outside world. Their own fans are trying to get rid of him. And Clay Helton at USC always seems to be in trouble. He's off to a 2-0 start. Tom Herman always seems to, he's one loss away from, it seems like, always being on the hot seat. So I wondered if we would see people pull the trigger on some of these coaches. And the fact that Will Muschamp got let go maybe is a sign that could happen. But if Will Muschamp has been let go, then whether he's in Florida State or he takes a year off, he'll end up quickly in hot demand as a defensive coordinator for sure.
Oh yeah.
People have talked about a potential replacement for him being possibly Hugh Freeze coming back to the SEC. I graduated from Liberty. Have you caught any Liberty games this year? Like, this is the most. Are they not fun?
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's Hugh Freeze. I mean, that's what he does.
Yeah.
Well, first he was able to bring in a good quarterback from Auburn, who's running it and throwing. But he go back to Ole Miss days. I mean, when Freddie was playing, Ole Miss had Bo Wallace, Chad Kelly. He of all these offenses that are scoring points, he might be one of the more innovative coaches of knowing how to attack defenses. But you're right. If you're a Liberty grad and fan, enjoy the run, because he is going to be coaching somewhere else soon.
Next week.
Yeah,
for sure. No, it's been fun. They have NC State this weekend. It'd be cool if they could get to 9-0, and then they've got winnable games in the last 2, and then we'll kind of see what the bowl game would look like. So
yeah, I mean, how about that story? You imagine them beating Virginia Tech and NC State in the same year. I mean, that would be remarkable.
And Q's. They beat Syracuse as well.
Yeah.
3 ACC.
Yeah.
They're going to end up with more ACC wins than our Knowles. So, I mean, they probably will either way. But I want to ask you, I mean, we're all massive fans, and we get up like so many people around the country, and I don't want to keep you too much longer, so we'll ask you a couple more and then let you get back to your night. But like so many people around the country, we wake up every Saturday morning and the first thing we do is flip on Game Day, right? Because it's just, it's so incredible. But like, there's always felt like there's obviously an FSU connection with Corso, and then Sam was on the show forever, obviously married Christian. And so, but we love Corso. I mean, he's incredible, but like, what's it like being, I know it's been distant this year. What's he really like? Like off camera, like, is he just, we see him on camera, but like, what's he like behind the scenes?
Man, I've been with him for 25 years. And he, when I first worked with him, he was intimidating because people don't realize when he was in his prime, he was not just funny, he was edgy. Like, he would say things that no one else had the courage to say. And that's what made him really a star in TV. I think he's the greatest entertainer to ever work in sports television. I love Charles. He's a good friend of mine, and he's an incredible entertainer in his own right, obviously. But Lee, just the way he over the years, he was able to do the things that he did, not just the headgear, but just how witty he was and his one-liners. And so that's the TV side. He's an incredibly talented guy, but he just loved winding up fans. Like, he was almost like a WWE character. Like, he loves, he'll say something bad about Florida State, and then at the end he'll come around and pick Florida State, or he just, like, it's almost like crowd's booing him 1 second, then they're cheering him the next. And he was just like, he had him right in the palm of his hand, when we were having a normal crowd. And then there's the other side of him where I got to know him really, really well. When I first started, I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. So you go from not being married, I was like 25, to now being 50 and having kids and having questions and having concerns. And I was with him so much, we'd be together, just he and I in the back of a car driving somewhere, to a photo shoot or something. And I'd have something on my mind and I would just talk to him like I would talk to my dad. And he was, I'd pour out my heart to him for 10 minutes, my problem. And he'd sit there and listen to me like Don Corleone, and he'd sit and listen and I'd get done. All he needed was like a cat, that he was petting. And then I would get done and he would just give me like a sentence and it would just be like, again, or like Yoda, give me one sentence and it would like solve my problem. And I can't tell you how many times that happens. So when you open your heart to somebody and he opens up his heart back to you, and you do that over the course of time, you become really close and you create a tight bond. And that's who we are, so he's my guy, and I've always enjoyed working with him, but my love of him as just a person is far greater than, what we do on TV.
Yeah, Kirk. So this will be my last one, and I'll let Freddie wrap it up for us. But as a huge College Game Day fan, thank you for coming on. This has been so awesome. Did you know what Lee was going to come with the Brooks Koepka outfit yesterday on Game Day, and with the Nike hat and the fake muscles, man? And unfortunately, he finished 10 under. It was a really good showing. But that was awesome to see. Did you know he was coming with that?
No, man. I typically try not to know, especially when he's in person. I love to be surprised. I literally, like when you're telling that story, I was looking up at everybody's faces. And we're all smiling. That's what he does for us. And I'm sitting next to him. So I'm no different than you watching him on TV. I just happen to be sitting next to him. And I can't help but laugh because if you only knew how excited he gets for the last 45 seconds of the show, like the other 2 hours, 59 minutes and 15 seconds, whatever. But those last 45 seconds, man, that is his time. Don't mess with him. Let him do his thing. And I've just learned, get out of the way. He might hand me a gun. He might hand me an albino alligator. I don't know what.
Yeah, an alligator.
But just let him do his thing and just sit back and appreciate it. And that's what I do. And I just happen to be sitting right next to him. But that's the best. Make sure you guys Google Lee Corso F-bomb if you haven't seen that, and when you get done, because
Oh yeah.
If you didn't, okay, you know about
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
He dropped the F-bomb.
He's got a couple out there, but they're all hilarious.
It was crystal clear when he said it too. And
we came back. You came back from break. And
he's like, "Oh,
who was it? Yeah, Fowler was like, "We caught an unfortunate."
exactly.
There was like an unfortunate word picked up on the air. We're like, we all knew who that was.
Oh yeah. He's a mess, and he doesn't care. He's the only guy that can say the F word, and his stock goes up. I would have been fired on the spot. His stock goes up when he said it. He's the best, man. We love about this, guys. Whether it's your grandparents or somebody he's 85 years old, had a stroke about 12 years ago, and there he is on national TV. I mean, just remarkable. And his cognitive thinking, I mean, it is sharp. The only time you'll ever see him talk a little bit when he gets a little stuck is going all the way back to that stroke. So if he didn't have that stroke, I mean, he would look like he's 60. Like when you see him in person, you'd think he's 65, 68 years old, just has great, genes. And so he's incredibly blessed. But yeah, we miss him. We miss having him not out there with us. It's just cool. At least he's on the show, to the magnitude that he is. And hopefully we all get on the other side of this COVID and we get back to some normalcy soon.
Yeah. Hopefully we see you Labor Day or the Sunday before Labor Day for Florida State Notre Dame next year.
I love it. I'm in. I'm all about that.
This game of football for players, it's a big fraternity. Myself, I find myself sometimes, whether I'm in the store or whatever I may be doing, I'll run into rivals or former teammates that I may not have even liked, but I have a major respect for them because I know they know what that grind is like and they went through the same thing that I went through. Yep. So sitting across from you, I got a major respect for you because I know you went through that grind. But the biggest thing for me is athletes transitioning into life after ball. So tell me a little bit about that transition and taking that next step after you were done playing ball. I know you had some questions, probably anxiety hit you, didn't really know what was next. Just talk about that. I'm big on that, guys transitioning after ball because so many guys are lost in their 40s, their 50s, still living in the past because it never clicked for them. They never figured out. And I think that's major for guys to figure out early on because you don't want to be that guy that's in his 50s and 60s living in regret because he never took life after ball serious.
Man, that is awesome. Great question. Great thought. That's something I would love to talk openly with guys that are your age or older or current players or high school players, because I think, again, going back to the system right now, the system is setting these players up to think that there's this euphoria in this world of the NFL. And for some guys, it'll pan out. But for 98% of them, it won't. But 100% think it will. And so they're putting all their eggs into that basket. So what happens is they do the 3 years, or some of them graduate, some of them don't. And then they try to chase the NFL. And if they're lucky enough to play for 4 years or 6 years or 8 years, they're going to be 30 years old and still need to work and still need to find something to do with their life. And my dad played at Ohio State. He was a captain there. He coached with Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler, and he kind of stayed out of my sports business, but he was very big on making sure I had balance and making sure that I would, not do that, not put all my eggs in one basket. So for me, I was a business major, but I was a sports fanatic. I loved talk radio growing up. I loved listening to talk radio. I loved watching all sports. And I think subconsciously I was digesting what I wanted to do with my life without knowing it. So when I got out of Ohio State and I tried to make it in the NFL, had some free agent opportunities, but I just didn't have that passion to bounce around from like the World League or Arena League, barely hanging on in the NFL. I had no interest in that life. So I just cut the cord, boom, like that. And I thought I was going to get into the business world, but I started doing a talk radio show, making $12,000 a year, and didn't really care about the money. I was pumped that they were going to pay me anything to sit there with a microphone and talk about sports, not just college football. I was in Columbus, Ohio, so we were talking Reds, Indians, Bengals, Browns, Ohio State, you name it. Ohio has a lot of different sports. And I get to talk about it year round, and had a great time doing that. Did it for ended up doing that for 15 years. But I think what it taught me was I saw what you see. I saw guys I played with that NFL maybe for a year or two got cut, and now they're going back home, or they got nothing going on. And my message when I talk to guys is chase that dream, man. Go get it. But please, I'm not lecturing. I'm just telling you, use me as an example. Go find a passion, whether it's coaching, whether it's broadcasting, whether it's being, I don't know, anything, whatever it is you like. Keep those options open, because one day you're going to want to tap into those options. Even if you do make it, you're going to want to tap into those options. And so sounds like you found something you enjoy. It sounds like you enjoy doing this podcast and talking sports. And, everybody, when I started making $12,000 doing radio, I would have never thought that 25 years later, I'd be calling Game of the Week and on game day for 25 years and calling the national championship every year and doing what I'm doing. I didn't get into it for that. I got into it because, man, I love doing this. And so find something you love to do, and then go kick its ass every single day, just like you did when you worked out. You didn't go work out like, I guess I'll go work out. You worked out like going to kill it. And that's how you have to do the job you're doing right here. And if you do that, another door is going to open. You're going to look at that door and be like, look at this. I'm going to go do this now. And then you go crush that one, and you go do that for a while, and then another door is going to open. And that's what I would do, looking back at it.
Kirk, I know we said we'd wrap up, but I got one more since you said something there that kind of made me think of this, but we'll ask this and we'll let you go. I'm going to clip that because that answer is awesome. And I think people don't think as much about that, like kids. Yeah. We've all seen that. We've all seen kids that have, put all their eggs in that one basket. But you just mentioned the national championship. I was out in Pasadena the year before the Oregon game. And so I, didn't hear you calling it, but when Florida State and Jameis got the ball back with 1:19 left.
Yeah.
I know you've got to be unbiased. You can't pick the games you call.
Yeah.
But now looking back 7 years ago, did you know that Florida State was going to go down and score that? Did you know beyond a shadow of a doubt?
I'll tell you this, because I did Florida State a bunch that year. I was working with Brent Musburger, and I can't remember the exact score, but Auburn jumped out big early in that game. And Brent made a comment basically almost like, well, this one's about over. And I said, this is not over. This Florida State team, they need one break to get them going. And this game can change. And I rarely disagree with your partner on air, but it was more of a conversation. But I wanted to make a point that there was so much game left that Florida State's got the talent and the confidence to come back if they can just catch a break. And sure enough, I can't remember what happened, but something happened and it got them going. And next thing you know, here they come. They're on that run. And when they got the ball back, I don't want to sit here and say I knew that they were going to score, but I had a lot of confidence that offense was going to at least get down near the red zone and have a shot, to win it. I didn't realize Green was going to shake a guy, go down that right sideline. That was a hell of a play. And I love that guy too. If you ever see him, tell him I said what's up. But I was that play right there was the play. I mean, we remember the slant, the touchdown, but that play to me was the critical play of that drive.
Yeah, because once we got it in the red zone, I mean, you knew they were going to score.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it was just getting there with that little time.
Oh, man. What a setting. What tension. Championship on the line. I mean, that was so hyped.
I was at that game and the Clemson game, and I had a lot more fun at the Clemson game than I did at the national title.
But we all wanted the title. We all wanted the title game and thought the title game would go like that, right? Because we blew everybody out that year. Yeah. But I mean, looking back, I wouldn't trade like walking it off, right, with like 10 seconds left. That's pretty incredible.
Awesome. And when people ask what's your favorite game you ever called, or most competitive, sometimes for me, I I think about like Georgia playing Oklahoma at that same stadium where Baker Mayfield got up big, and it was like, wow, Oklahoma's going to kill Georgia. And then Jay Fromm brought him back with Chubb and Sonny Michel and went into overtime. It was an amazing game. And then like a week later in the national championship, Tua comes in and ends up beating that Georgia team, which was back-to-back. So sometimes you lock in on those games, but just reminiscing and talking about that's right up there with just an epic scene, stage, everything on the line. Auburn's up big. Florida State comes back. Auburn comes back. Florida State's got the ball. Minute to go. Who's going to win? I mean, that's about all the drama you could hope for in a national championship.
Yeah, the Rose Bowl's seen some good ones. A few years before that, I mean, Keith Jackson calling the Vince Young walk-off was was pretty special too. I mean,
absolutely.
Florida State's won in a couple of different stadiums, but that Rose Bowl one's always going to be a special one for sure.
Yeah. I tell you, the not a great memory for Florida State, but Wanky couldn't play in '98.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? Marcus Outson it was Marcus Outson.
Yeah, the Rooster against Tennessee.
Rooster. Yeah. Tennessee ended up
T. Martin and them,
kind of shocking the world. Peyton Manning all those years was the guy, and then T. Martin steps in and wins them a national championship in '98.
Man, we appreciate so much your time and hanging out, talking FSU with us. And we started with the bad news, but we finished off with some positive memories.
Exactly. Well, hopefully you guys, seriously, man, anytime you want me to hop on, let me know. Good luck to the Noles getting this thing turned around. But I hang in there, be patient, because for him to do it the right way, it's going to take some time. And I would just look for any kind of spirit of the team and players playing for each other. You start to see those kind of things, and I just think you start to see the thing going in a better direction.
Awesome. Thanks, Kirk. Really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. You guys take care. Freddie, take care, bud.
Yes, sir. Alex, before you leave, Kirk, I got to give you a special shout out. I used to get clips from my family all game. I come in the locker room after the game, and they're like, yo, Kirk's showing you major love.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to cover that game, you're showing us love. And I'm like, dang,
yeah. But, I love fullbacks. I love, because I know that is not a glorified position. And when you would make a block or you get your hands on the ball, I'm going to celebrate it. You know what I mean? Because that's the epitome. We're talking about being unselfish. That position represents that more than I think any other than offensive lineman. But that position represents that more than anybody.
Without a doubt. And I hate how it's phased out the game. But I remember all those games where I'm coming in and I got some clips on my phone. Like, dang, Kirk knows that Freddie Stevenson name, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't know who loved me more, you or my family. I'm like, Kirk love, man. But I appreciate you. You always showed us love, and you always kept it real. But I appreciate you coming on and chopping it up with us tonight.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I appreciate you reminding me of some of those good old days when you were out there getting it done. And like I said, Freddie, anytime you guys want me to hop back on, just let me know.
Yes, sir.
All right. You guys take care.
Buddy.
Okay.
Thanks, appreciate it, man. Yeah, I don't have a lot more in me after that, bro. Like, I don't talk about this NC State game. I'm still over here like Harlan's shaking. I'm shaking. I'm texting Kara like I'm freaking out right now. Freddie played with like Heisman winners and national champions and stuff. Like me and Richie over here just like nobodies, bro. Just like I wake up every Saturday morning, watch this guy on my TV, and get complained to by my kid about turning cartoons off now. And now I'm interviewing this guy on a podcast. So, man, that was a lot of fun. Kirk's awesome. I can't wait to get off here and go listen to the rest of that because he's just incredible.
Right.
But no, that was super dope. So
TJ, I just want to tell you, I was sitting here shaking. I was texting you. You said go ahead and ask a question. I said, "Oh my god!" I turned my camera off. I went and chugged the beer. I was like, I can't be slurring my words. I just asked him real quick. I had to get the nerves out to ask him a question.
Dude, I remember when we got our first couple like massive guests on the Big Three roll up. We got like Derek Brooks and
Ken Griffey
Jr. Yeah, and guys like that. And I just told those guys, I was like, I'm asking these guys a question. These are like I'm talking, like I'm gonna put on audio my voice talking with these legends. And so I thought about
But-
Ireland while we were doing it, and I texted him and said, like, hey, bro, come in here and ask a question, because you'll never forget. Like, I'll never forget the fact that I asked King Revilla Jr. a question, and like Harlan will, like none of us will ever forget it, but I didn't want you to miss out on it too while we're all BSing with him for an hour.
Yeah,
so.
no, I appreciate
Well,
it.
how-
It was
Way to
awesome.
think quick on your feet. Way to think quick on your feet, because I put you on the spot.
And how cool is it that on a Sunday night in the thick of these, conference races, he takes an hour out of his day to come on our podcast and just hang out. And I think he would have hung out for another hour if he wanted to. I feel like we tried to end it a few times and he kept going. It was, man, he was an awesome down to earth guest. I already liked the guy a lot before that, but that man, he's definitely up there. That was awesome, man.
No, absolutely, without a doubt. And like you said, he probably would have stayed on forever. But yeah, he was incredible. Like I said, I can't wait to get off. I'm not even waiting until tomorrow morning. I can't wait to get off here and listen to it again, because he just had a lot of really good stuff in there, and just a name that everybody in college football knows who that is, right? Like, some people may not know who this guy is or that guy is, but everybody knows who Kirk Herbstreit is. So that was, again, that was super dope. But yeah, I don't really want to talk about the NC State game. I will give a little bit better shout out to the Big Three Roll Up, which we're powered by. Again, check out the shop now and get some double fries, no slaw swag there, as well as our Patreon, patreon.com/double fries pod. There's some different neat stuff there for you. Before we talk really, really quickly about the NC State game, any other thoughts on Kirk, or we want to talk about this NC State game and get out of here?
We've delayed it long enough. We had a nice long hour with Kirk, a lot of good memories and good times. So let's just jump right into this, and let it go from there.
Yeah, Florida State loses to NC State in a game they ended up losing by 16, right? 38-22, but it was never all that competitive. It was 35-9 going into the fourth quarter. FSU got a couple of, I don't know if they were necessarily garbage time, but the game was definitely decided. And so the score looks a little better than it really was, but Florida State not competitive for most of the game. No Jordan Travis, so Purdy and Rodents, kind of did all it could. Started out decently, but then was just on the field way too much and really couldn't hold NC State down. Overall, I don't know that the game went any differently than what we probably all expected. I think I had 38-24, 41-24, something in that range. So I think it kind of went about like we expected. Maybe Florida State scored a little bit more, held them to a little bit lower, but I think we all kind of expected a 2-touchdown loss or so. And outside of that, we previewed the game and, what we thought would happen did. Not having Travis kind of handicapped us. I don't know that he's the difference in the game that we could have things really that different. But what are you guys' takeaways from that? And then we'll talk about one more thing and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, just like you said, defense started off pretty decent, but just on the field too much. Offense kept going 3 and outs on the field, getting worn down. But my issue was sometimes in the passing situations when we were blitzing and guys are playing 10 yards off the ball and just giving those guys free releases down the field. And you saw it a few times on the goal line. I'll talk about that in the extra sauce segment. But Purdy just coming in that situation, his first start, I don't think he looked bad. He showed some promise. He's not, of course, he's not. I don't think he's fully ready yet, but he does have some room for you to be optimistic in the future. I think he'll be a bright spot in our team in the near future. But as he continues to develop and get more reps, he'll only progress. And I think he showed some great composure in this game, throwing the ball away in situations instead of taking unnecessary hits or forcing turnovers. I think that he showed some things you can be optimistic about.
Yeah, and on that long touchdown pass, Wilson was wide open, but that doesn't happen if Chuba doesn't, step up in the pocket, kind of use his feet to create something, and more importantly, keep his eyes downfield. Because if he doesn't have his eyes downfield, he doesn't see that. I'm with you, Freddie, man. I came away, Chuba's not ready yet, but I was impressed with him, and I think he did show some promise moving forward. And I think, and I'd love to get both of your thoughts on this, that even if Travis is healthy, I think you got to ride with Chuba the rest of the season just to see what you have. potentially moving into next year. So what do you guys think about that?
I don't think that's a bad idea. I mean, at this point, I don't know that there's a lot of difference between a 3-9 record and a 2-10, right? I mean, we're not beating Clemson this weekend, and then I think the Virginia game is going to be pretty tough as well. Their offense is kind of clicking. So you're looking at that Duke game, right, as the one possible win. And is it more important to let Chuba continue to grow and develop, or to maybe get that one win against Duke, right? So not that we couldn't win with Chuba or that we're a guaranteed win with Jordan, but yeah, I think especially if Travis isn't all the way healthy, which he probably isn't, nothing's really come out in his injury. I think I'd side with Richie there and say I agree with that. Freddie?
Yeah, I'll roll with that. Just with the way Jordan Travis plays, I know he's banged up right now.
Yeah.
And it just Purdy getting all those reps is only going to help us in the future. No matter, these guys get an opportunity to compete in the spring, but it'll only make us a better team when Travis does come back and have opportunity to compete. He'll have a guy that pushes him, and whoever wins that job, it's a guy that's fit for it because Purdy's gotten those in-game reps, and then they'll have the opportunity to progress more in fall camp. So I think let him roll and just keep progressing. He didn't get the opportunity in camp. He got hurt early.
Yeah, shout out to my guy Matt over at Bay Canyon Brewery. I mean, it's funny you interview somebody like Kirk and then you kind of like forget exactly what they just said. Seeing the guys that are out there fighting for each other sounds like such a loser blood, moral victory thing to look for. But at this point, like I said, what's the difference between 3-9 and 2-10? It's trying to take those positives away from those guys that are going to fight for each other, for the team, for the logo, for the brand, for the school. Over these last 3 weeks. These last 3 weeks aren't probably not going to be a ton of fun, but it's who are the guys stepping up in those situations in that area and stuff like that. So that's a good reminder for my buddy Matt over there at Bay Can. I saw that in the comments. Shout out to Matt. We had Matt's beer out at I saw Richie with at least one can of that. We had Matt's beer out at the Cush House grand opening in Orlando last night. So that stuff was great. Like I said, hopefully Lindsay drove home because I saw Richie with a new can in his hand every time I turned around. But she was putting them away. Shout out to those guys over there. I am excited for Freddie's Extra Sauce segment tomorrow. That's sponsored by the Lemieux Company. Great stuff there. In fact, I literally had just like walked in the door and put the kids down for a bath. So I've got to make the video for it real quick so that those guys can work on that and get that out to you tomorrow. But excited for that. Check that out. Drop in tomorrow. Any closing thoughts, guys, on the team, on Kirk, on anything from this weekend that you've seen, any NFL stuff? Oh, Jameis. Shout out to Jameis for getting in against this.
Good for him,
against the 49ers. Looks like Breeze got hurt. I got a lot of trolls on the fact that Jameis was the third string quarterback. Look who they put in when Breeze went down. Taysom Hill is not an every down quarterback. He's a gadget guy. Jameis went in, extended the lead, drove them down a few times for scores, and the Saints end up getting the win. So shout out Jameis, 1-0 on the season, undefeated quarterback, since quarterback wins are a thing when you live in Tampa. Brady looked better today. Well, Brady didn't really look that good. The team looked better overall. Brady missed some guys early, which is kind of weird, but they looked better second half, and the Bucs looked good as well. Anything before we get out of here, guys?
I mean, I was happy to see the Bucs bounce back. A very slow start again, which kind of had me worried. But then I think Brady looked significantly better than last week. And he now moves to 8-1 following a game where he lost by 20 or more points in the week prior. So he's petty, and I love it.
Yeah, you don't have much for me this week. I kind of want to play that song with Jameis dance to again because he got an opportunity. It's funny now because it'll be ironic if he takes Drew Brees' spot. That'll be ironic then. But I mean, I'm just happy to see him get an opportunity, man. He looks happy out.
Yeah, Super Bowl's here in Tampa, so the NFC is wide open. So
yeah, it is.
Richie's gonna hate me. I'm cheering for the Saints to win the Super Bowl because James is playing. But that's all I got. Are you playing that song again? Or are we picking a new song?
Hold on. I got two quick shout outs before we get out of here though, real quick.
He's got somebody getting married, I can tell.
Yeah, so yesterday was my mom's birthday, so shout out to her. And then shout out to my good friends Cody and Sarah. They got engaged yesterday, last night. And really excited for them. So bachelor party coming soon.
Are they in Orlando?
Yeah.
They should get married at the Cush House.
I mean, it's right up their alley. I'll just say that without going into.
Very good. Shout out my buddy Kevin. Today's his birthday as well. Since you mentioned your mom, I figured I should shout my buddy out as well. Richie, get us a song and let's get out of here.
Let me see. Let Freddie take it again.
Kara just texted me and said that Champagne Reek could marry them. Did you meet Champagne Reek last night?
Yeah, we met him at the Florida State Miami game too.
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah, so very few people will get that joke, but
yeah. So when do y'all take the songs?
Man, if y'all give it I'm playing that James song again, man.
All right,
go ahead,
run it back.
All right, y'all have a good night. We'll see you on Thursday night. Oh man, I did not want to break that down.